Prometheus began a 7-day trip 4 months ago. The ship and its 2,000 people are lost. This is a huge issue in Europe since several famous individuals were first-class passengers. Every attempt to discover the ship has failed, despite widespread rumors. Maura runs through a psychiatric facility in the first scene. She's condemning her father for hurting her sibling. Maura describes a missing ship and accuses her father of murder. Prometheus is her ship. Maura wakes up and thinks she was dreaming. Her asylum-related wrist markings tell differently. Maura remembers her past hazily. She seemed to have forgotten the last several months. She's now sailing from England to America. This ship has almost 1,000 people and is likewise on a 7-day trip. First-class passengers are wealthy, whereas middle and working-class passengers are refugees, criminals, or wanderers. They reside in the lowest shared cabin and eat less than first-class travelers. Nobody knows that every passenger has a secret. Maura is a first-class traveler who got a letter. Her brother's letter. He asks Maura to come to New York, saying he knows what their father did. Maura is on board despite her poor health and mental instability. Maura glances in the mirror to remember her name in case someone approaches her. Lucian and Laura, newlyweds, are eating. They don't love each other because of their parents' agreement. Lucian prefers a Japanese prostitute. The prostitute's mother is clothed in a Japanese kimono, but speaks Cantonese. They're faking being Japanese to live overseas better. Miss Eve joins Maura, who is alone. Eve is selling her to a brothel in America. A guy interrupts Maura and Eve's invasive questioning. He's a low-class worker who can't look at the first-class traveler. His dying sister is in the basement compartment. Maura pursues the guards and reveals she's a doctor. She assists the pregnant mother down below. Her sister trusts Maura despite skepticism. When the lady stops suffering, Maura softly leaves. The ship's captain is there. 2 years ago, he lost his wife and kids in a home fire. His aides interrupt the captain's conversation with Maura. They reveal that a nearby signal tells them a location's coordinates. The skipper thinks the signal is from the missing ship. He spins the spacecraft around to investigate. Maura asks the captain if anyone on the missing ship is alive after 4 months. The skipper hopes they rationed food and survived. The captain brings out a similar packet after Maura departs from Isle. Later, the captain informs first-class passengers he's turning the ship to the coordinates. Most are unhappy, but the captain is firm. They reach the coordinates hours later and establish it's the lost spacecraft. The skipper orders a lifeboat to be lowered and picks a group to join him. Oleg, Jerome, Maura, and a few more maintain watch. They approach the abandoned ship and climb up to find no one there. The entire ship is deserted without even a corpse. Because the gadget needed to receive the communication is destroyed, the captain is bewildered. Maura follows a bug on the floor. The bug takes her to a closed chamber. Maura opens it cautiously and is surprised by a boy. He's emotionless and holds a bizarre pyramid. The gang wonders about his survival before bringing him on. Since she's a doctor, Maura promises to keep him safe in her room. The next morning, every ship compass fail. People wonder if they'll die like the lost ship's passengers, and the skipper is at a loss. Maura looks after the child. She brings him food and discovers a stranger outside her door. The man says he heard whimpers from her room and wanted to check on her. He's her neighbor, Daniel. Maura asks the man if they've met before since she looks familiar, but he walks away. Maura then asks the boy what he was doing aboard. The boy keeps mute and gives her the pyramid he was carrying. She can hardly understand what he's saying. Meanwhile, the captain suspects the ship corporation is involved. Before the cruise, he received a note that said sink ship. He thinks the firm intends to sink the freshly recovered ship to cover up. Staff think he's overthinking. The captain must decide what to do. Because the ship hasn't moved, passengers and staff are questioning his authority. In such settings, he hears his daughter singing. He follows the sound to his wife and daughter's room. The fire that killed them was set by his wife to murder herself and her daughters. The captain attempts to communicate to his family, but his wife ignores him and takes the kids away. The girl calls for her father and sets herself ablaze. This awakens the captain. He awakens in a compartment under his bed. He's surprised he didn't know about the chamber under his bed. The skipper chooses to take the lost ship to land anyhow. They'll have to return to England since they don't have enough coal. Maura notices a similar tattoo on the boy's neck. She tells the child that her brother has been gone for 4 months and she had no idea where he was until receiving the letter. She wants to know what the mark symbolizes. The youngster hears, cries, and says nothing. Daniel returns when Maura departs. This time, he releases a beetle similar to the one aboard the missing spacecraft. It walks along the hallway. Daniel runs across a lower-class female who discovers it. The scene cuts after he apologizes. Elsewhere, the captain informs the passengers they're headed back to England. People protest, but he stands firm. Maura asks him what's wrong on the deck. The skipper explains the company's sink ship message. He feels he and Maura were brought on this ship for a reason after seeing her identical letter. A male doctor is summoned to determine the cause of the girl's death when her body is located. He says she died of illness and natural causes. Maura doubts him, but he doesn't respect her. The skipper is called outside to witness the fog. Before, they use the sun to navigate. Fog makes it tough to travel. The captain shows Maura his daughter's ribbon in his chamber. He says he discovered the ship's ribbon. He thinks his long-dead relatives was aboard the ship. Maura and he decide to return to the missing ship to review the captain's logbook. Security stops them from lowering the lifeboat. He's upset with the captain's plan to return to England and fears his fixation with the lost ship will hurt them all. Still, the skipper lowers the boat. After they leave, the captain's second-in-command stirs up trouble. The security chief notifies the poor about the girl's death. He makes them protest against the commander. Lower-class folks don't return to England since they can't afford a second ship ticket. Later, they locate 3 more deceased persons who died like the girl. This infuriates them and they battle for their rights. Captain and Maura approach the missing ship and enter a chamber. Every official document has been burned, but the captain saves one. It lists shipmates. They also find a wall-mounted electric board. The skipper says it's a recent addition to the ship that measures steam pressure. He realizes the instrument is worthless and must serve another purpose. His passenger ship has the same device, so he's afraid. This validates his idea that the ship corporation must deal with lost ships and dead passengers. The Japanese prostitute then looks out at sea. Lucian, a married guy, approaches her but she avoids him. Eve notices the exchange. She offers Lucian money to spend the night with a prostitute. Eve checks the prostitute's cleanliness and discovers she's a virgin. Her mother worked at a brothel, as shown in a flashback. The greatest prostitute found a job overseas and a better life. Jealous ladies murdered the girl and sailed in her place. The virgin prostitute realizes they did wrong, so she sleeps with Lucian. Lucian lies to his wife about sleeping in another room. He avoids his medication. He had a seizure before the prostitute undresses. Lucian is impotent and needs his medications. The captain examines the document when they return to their ship. Maura's name appears on the lost ship's passenger list. The captain has no idea how she returned or what secret she's hiding. Daniel meets Maura and asks about the captain. Maura finds the question unusual but says she trusts him because he's gone through a lot and wants the best for his passengers. Lower-class folks amass firearms and weaponry to take over the ship and reach America. Rivals encircle the captain before he's warned. Daniel tries to use the odd contraption the captain observed earlier. Captain and 3 supporters are tied in a cabin. Chief Security discovers that the compass is operating again. The group is astonished to find themselves where they were 3 days ago. Even the oldest members of the team have no answer because they've always been moving. Protesters question a staff member why their folks are dying. In terror, he reviews everything that's transpired on the ship since the ghost ship signal. When the gang learns this after rescuing the youngster, they assume he brought an illness. The demonstrators yell and go out to murder the youngster. First, they enter Maura's unoccupied room. After checking and finding no youngster, they lock Maura and investigate other rooms. Maura detects a rustling under her bed while she worries for the kid. She moves it to look and finds a concealed chamber like under the captain's bed. Maura sighs when the boy exits the chamber. High-class guests are locked in one by one. The child watches Maura try to pick her lock. The beetle unlocks the door from the outside. Maura is astonished, but she can't linger. They reach the lifeboat and find the captain and his followers. They fled by crawling through a vent. The gang is now arranging a lifeboat escape. After seeing Maura's name on the ghost ship's passenger list, the captain is doubtful. Before lowering the lifeboat, demonstrators approach and murder the youngster. As they prepare to sacrifice the child, it pours. He's not terrified, as if he's accepted his fate. The captain and his followers arrive seconds before they slit his throat. Both sides battle and several are hurt. Maura tries to save the boy, but a lady throws him overboard. The captain's group treats their wounds in the lobby. Maura is startled and disturbed since she bonded with the boy. The captain becomes tired of Maura's antics and reveals her the lost ship's passenger list. Maura doesn't recall being aboard the ship. She attempts to refute the paper, but a neighboring cabinet squeaks. Everyone is shocked as the youngster emerges from the storeroom clutching the pyramid from the missing ship. Episode concludes when he cuddles Maura.